So we've got from Tammy, who is 30 years, which down to years to a couple months. So I think it's extremely important, right? And I think one of the things that we get on these Zooms is to make those connections and put those connections with faces as we move forward, right? Like you're not in your own little world. There's a great resources out there, and especially in the animal science world, to jump on, ask questions, and figure out what everybody else is doing so that you're not sitting in your own little world. So while you're just finishing up with that, I am going to invite Kate to start sharing her screen. Kate, you should have privileges. So if you want to if you haven't had that chance to put it in the chat, go ahead and do that. Jess or I will be monitoring the chat as we go through. So with that, Kate, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. I do have my headphones in, but let me know if for some reason you can't hear me well. They are new to me. But my name is Kate Purz. I'm the 4-H Animal Science Program Coordinator down here in Suffolk County. We are kind of unique and very lucky that we are based on a 270-acre working farm, and we do have, oh gosh, we're over 200 animals here on the farm. I can't remember the actual title or actual number rather, but we're very lucky. So we have field trips and visitors come to the farm. We also take the animals off the farm and do a variety of programming, preschools, libraries, grade schools, high schools, nursing homes, all of that. So we sort of have programming that covers all of the ages. And so I just have a little brief bits of information about the most of our poultry programming. And then I have, you guys can always contact me for more information. I have my email at the end. Brian, Jess, I'm happy to answer questions as they come up, unless you prefer to hold them at the end. It does not matter to me. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I do apologize. I have too many words on my screen. I would yell at my 4-Hers for that. But we had an avian influenza outbreak last week that has been taking up a lot of my time. So I do apologize. But our main program that we do for grades K through 6 is what we call Egg to Chick. And it does focus on chicken embryology and development. We do have a duck supplement when needed. And so this program is roughly half an hour to 45 minutes. We do it either on the farm as an add-on to our animal experience wagon ride program that we do, or we can do it separately. And so basically the program just entails what an embryo and what embryology is. We do define that. We talk about fresh versus fertile eggs, how we don't need a rooster to get eggs, but we need a rooster to get fertilized eggs, and sort of where do chicks come from. And then we talk about the chicken family. So we talk about hens, pullets, roosters, define all of those, talk about the multiple differences between a rooster and a hen. All of this information is tailored to the age of the kids and sort of their ability to concentrate. And it's really exciting for the kids when they come to the farm. And so depending on if they have already done the wagon ride or not, we have varied success in the information that we're able to get them to absorb. But we do try to focus specifically on really focusing on roosters versus hens, differences in their feathering and their colors, the spur that a rooster would have, what a hen is supposed to do. She's supposed to incubate her eggs. So she has the short, fluffy feathers on the bottom of her tail versus the rooster stickle tail because he's the protector. And then we always try to add something in terms of getting the kids active and moving. And so we do a rooster, hen, and a raccoon skit, again, with varying success depending on their age. So we ask for volunteers, and if we have a lot of children, because sometimes we'll have up to 20 in a group or 25, I believe, depending on class sizes, we'll ask for volunteers. Some of them will be roosters, some of them will be hens, and some will be raccoons. And so the hen will sit on her little eggs in her chair, and the raccoon comes over and tries to steal her eggs from her, so because they're hungry. And then the rooster will come over and flap his wings and do a little dance and sort of get the rooster to move away. And so we try to do that at the beginning of the program just to get a little bit of activity out. And then we go into some more of the details. So we are lucky enough, we have this model here of our hen. We have a few of these models. They're from Biomedical Sciences. I am not sure if they're still available. A lot of ours look like they're from multiple decades ago, but they still work. And so we discuss her insides. We talk about egg formation, She's born with every single egg she's ever going to lay inside of her, how it forms in her reproductive tract. Um, we talk about their beak and how they don't have teeth in their digestive tract and how they can eat their food and digest their food. And so we are able to use this model in order to really visualize this for the kids. And different parts do come off of the model. And so the kids can get really into it and it gives them something tangible to hold on to and feel and look at. And then obviously we get a lot of questions about this because it's not something they're used to seeing. So it's really fun to get them to explore the physiology of the bird a little bit. And again, you do have to temper this information depending on their grade level and ability to comprehend it. And then we talk about egg laying and incubation. How long does it take for an egg to be laid? What is a clutch? How many eggs is she going to lay before she forms a clutch? Do they lay eggs in the winter? And then we go into natural incubation of the hen and how we can manipulate that using an incubator and actually hatch chicks in the classroom. A lot of times I also run an embryology and incubation in the classroom program. And so a lot of times the library or the schools that are incubating the eggs will have us come in and do this egg to chick program while they have their eggs there because it adds something fun for them to do while they're waiting the 21 days for the eggs to incubate. We also have an egg model very similar to the hen model that I just showed you. And so we discuss all the different parts of the egg, including the shell and going into the membranes, the yolk, the chlamydochores, everything inside of that egg and what their function is. And again, that egg model gives them a really good opportunity to visualize everything. And then, so I would say the egg model and embryo development are the main portion of this program. We talk about next how the embryo grows, when it becomes a chick, and then we always make sure to talk about an egg tooth. And we have these sequence cards that you can see visualized up top. And so we go through all the sequence cards, then we ask the kids to get up and put them in order. Again, just trying to get some motion out of them and get some energy out so they can focus and have them lay it out in order and talk about the differences in pictures. And then we do go into who else on our farm is going to lay eggs, since we do have other poultry here. If this is in the classroom, sometimes we'll candle eggs if the class themselves are incubating. And then depending on what chicks I have available and also what our biosecurity regulations are, depending on the avian influenza status, sometimes the educators will bring chicks with them, so they'll be able to pet them. And then something I did just add is the chick life cycle exploration kit. We got it from Carolina Biological Supply. It is a set of eggs, and when you open them, it has every single day of embryonic growth in there. So you can see from days 0 when there's nothing really that you can see all the way up to a live chick. And again, it gives the kids something to do. They can open the eggs, look at them, put them in order. You know, we try to give a lot of different varieties so that if there's some kids who learn better with their hands and some kids who want to listen, or versus some kids who want to listen, we give them all sorts of opportunities in order to explore how they learn best. And again, it's throughout, if it's on the farm and add-on, it's about 30 minutes, and then but usually it's about 45 minutes, depending on the class. Next, we do have a lot of early childhood programming as well. We do a turkey time program. So this is for preschool age, it's about 45 minutes, and we do bring both a hen and a tom turkey to the schools or libraries, wherever. And it's most popular in October, November, just due to Thanksgiving. So we show up for this program, we bring the turkeys in. We have a very large dog kennel and a wagon that it rides in. So we bring the turkeys into the classroom. And then we just encourage the preschoolers to use their senses to make observation. What color are their feathers? What do you notice on their head? And then we'll pick up the hen and let the kids pet her. How do they feel? What do you smell? What do you hear? Any other observations? You never know what those kiddos are going to notice. And then we read a story that is age appropriate. And then we have turkey eggs and feathers that we will show them up close. I'll pass the feathers around. I won't with the eggs, but I'll let them come up and look at the speckles on the egg. And then we do make a turkey headband, which is up top. You'll see the picture. They just simple craft so they can color and have some fun. We'll put it onto a headband. And then we do end with a turkey parade. We want them to strut around like a tom, hold their wings out, shake their tail feathers, give a gobble. Again, just trying to get some motion into it. The story that they've been reading lately is The Little Tom Turkey, but There's a variety of different books that we can utilize. And this program became so popular around Thanksgiving time that I was actually asked to develop Great Gobblers, which is our K-6 turkey program. It's an hour long and it's an elevated version of turkey time. We don't do a craft, we have an activity instead. We don't do the parade, and we just have a lot more information in there. So we start out with defining poultry and what do we use turkeys for? We talk about the names of the different males, females, and different ages. And then I focus a lot on wild versus domestic turkeys, the history of turkeys in the country, and then what are the differences between the types. And we do have heritage turkeys here on the farm, and those are the ones that go out on the programs. So we have a whole comparison between wild, domestic, and heritage breeds, not only the differences in their appearance, but also the difference in their use and lifespan, etc. We'll take the hen out, we'll point out the snood, her wattles, the caruncles, the beak, etc. We won't point out the hen snood, we'll point out the Tom's snood, excuse me. We talk about how they don't have teeth, talk about digestion, go into differences between toms and hens, looking at the sexual dimorphism, asking the kids what they see that is different. What do you hear the noises that they're making? Are they the same noise? And talk about how the hen is going to lay eggs, and then why don't we see turkey eggs in stores? They're not going to lay as many as our chicken friends. But we do, and then we move on to our bingo game. So this is our bingo board. It is set up so that every student get wins. Basically, we just give stickers as prizes. And so we have a felt board that we use for this and photos that depict a variety of things. We'll ask a question. What does this wild turkey eat? He's going to eat the acorn. What is our heritage breed that lives at my farm going to eat? She's going to eat the pellets. Where would the wild turkeys live? They're going to live out in the trees. Our turkeys here on the farm live in a coop, etc. And so we have the pictures are all lined out, and we have one student answer the question. We ask the question and have a student select the picture that they think is correct, and then they hang it up and everyone marks it off on their bingo board. This is a newer type of activity for us, and the kids seem to really enjoy the bingo. And again, we do set it up. So we have, I think, 25 different boards, and everyone's going to get at least one bingo. And then we'll pet the hen and encourage them to wash their hands again, etc. In terms of our duck programming, the only one that we really focus on is our early childhood crowing quackers program, very similar to the turkey time program. Again, it does include duck visits, but they're going to use their senses to make observations. We're going to talk about their bill, the webbed feet, have them feel their feathers and how thick they are. And then we do, again, an activity. We have a volunteer put on a raincoat, some flippers and goggles, and walk around. This is what it's like to be a duck. They can swim without having any, they don't need all this extra gear to be out in the rain or out in the water. We read a story, and then we make a headband. The kids can color it. This was one of the ones we made, so it is not colored. They can glue on the bill, and then we have a duck parade. And so for the early childhood programs, we tend to do the petting early on in the program just to help the kids. It's really exciting. They want to pet the duck. I tend with the older kids to do petting at the end, to make sure I have enough time for everything else. And it's a little bit easier for us to manipulate the information that we're giving out and the time we spend on that versus the petting. And then that way the kids can wash their hands right away. Again, another early childhood program is Birds of a Feather. So this visit includes both ducks and chickens, very similar to the other early childhood programming, but we're really focusing on comparing and contrasting. What's the same? They both lay eggs. What's different about their eggs? Who has a beak? Who has a bill? Who has webbed feet? Who has toes that can grip things? Are their noises the same? One thing I have forgotten to mention is we never bring roosters on this program. It is just our hens that come, and we actually don't have any drakes on the farm, so it's only female ducks that go. Then we talk about what we call all the different ages and sexes of chickens versus ducks. We're going to read a story. I believe it's the chicken, the duckling. And then we do our crafts. So we give each child a paper egg, and they can choose either a chick or a duckling. They can color the bird. They can glue the bird to the eggshell and attach the top and the bottom with these fasteners that you see here. And then it's just a simple craft. We do have our information stamped on the back of it so that if the parents are interested in seeing the animals themselves or want to know what their kid did at school that day, that information is there. We are open to the public, so we always do make sure that people know that they can come here. And then the main part of my job this time of year is my chick incubation and embryology program. We do have an incredibly large program here in Suffolk. I distribute anywhere up to 286 sets of eggs to school, beginning the end of February through the end of, and going through the end of May. Reservations for this start in October. And this year, especially, we've had unprecedented interest. There's a lot of incubation and embryology programs in our area that have shut down. So I do distribute eggs throughout both counties on Long Island and even in the 5 boroughs of New York City. And had the interest even from Westchester this year. We distribute 8 eggs per incubator. We used to distribute up to 12, but we just couldn't keep up with the demand and the amount of chicks that were coming back. We use sex-linked or auto-sexing breeds because on Long Island, we're very careful about roosters. They're illegal on a lot of parts of the island and they cause a lot of issues. It's not uncommon for people to get caught having them and then dumping them here at the farm. And then we have to catch them and find something to do with them. So I do not allow people to take rooster chicks. They're welcome to adopt pullet chicks. And so we use the sex-linked or auto-sexing breeds in an effort to prevent the amount of roosters that are being kept by hatchers. We don't provide the equipment. The facilities must purchase them. We have presences in many school districts, also in libraries, a few nursing homes, a lot of preschools. I have 1 or 2 high schools, but the majority are in grade school. Chicks have to be returned. Pullets can be adopted, but we do keep the roosters, as I mentioned. We provide 3 different types of eggs this year. I have Black Star crosses that will be hatched out in schools. I have Cinnamon Queens, so Silver Laced Wyandotte Rhode Island Red Crosses. The Black Stars are Barred Rock Rhode Island Red Crosses. And then we do have a white egg laying cross. We cross silkies, male silkies with white leghorn hens, and they're not 100% sex linked, but the majority of the female chicks have darker skin than their lighter skinned brothers. So that one is not 100% guaranteed, but we do offer those chicks as well. And that's just so the teachers can handle the eggs. Like in this image right here, this is a day 7 egg. You can see there's an embryo in the middle and you see the blood vessels coming out to the side. The teachers prefer the white eggs to candle, but then we also distribute a variety of brown eggs. Normally I have turquoise eggs from cream leg bars, but we decided to take a break on the cream leg bars this year. So we're trying the cinnamon queens out instead.
Kate, can I
I
ask
do
a question quick? And I'm sure this is a question that's going to come out is, can you talk about your
absolutely
sex links and your auto sexing and how you do that, right? Because this is a
sure.
program that a lot of teachers, and I'm not sure if anybody's afraid to ask, but I'm sure that's a question that's out there.
Yeah, I can talk about this for hours. So I was just so I didn't want to overshare. So thank you. So my sex link crosses, you use specific breeds. So the males are Rhode Island Reds for the crosses that we use. The hens for one of them are Barred Rocks. The male chicks hatch out with a white dot on the top of their head. The females have white on their chest and on their belly, but nothing on their head. So I can tell when they're born or when they dry off. So within 24 hours, I can tell who is male versus female. So the males have the white dot on the head. The same goes with the cream leg bar. They are considered auto-sexing because they're a purebred breed that the chicks differentiate in color based upon their sex when they're born. So cream leg bars, the males have a white dot too. The cinnamon queens this year, which are my silver laced Wyandotte Rhode Island red crosses, the males hatch out almost like a yellowish color and the females hatch out reddish. So again, pretty simple to tell those apart. Normally the teachers keep them for about 7 to 10 days. Some teachers prefer to keep them longer, but depending on the breed, sometimes it's easier to tell male versus female when they're a little younger. I had a teacher return 2-month-old chicks last year and they looked a little bit different. And the white dot was starting to disappear on the head a little bit on some of the cream light bars. So had to really use some other skills there. And then, like I said, our Leghorn Silky Cross, we call them leggies. One of my predecessors spent some time trying to develop or looking for information on people who had developed a sex-linked white layer, and just for the ease of handling the eggs. And so the silkies are the males and the leghorns are the females. And in any of the sex-linked breeds, the females are going to look like the dad. So the females have the dark skin like the dad, and the males have yellow skin like the leghorns most of the time. Not 100%, but incredibly close. And so in terms of the barred rocks, the females have barring, so white barring patterns on their feathers, so white dots basically. And the males look like the mom, the boys, yeah, the girls look like the dads. So the males that have the white dot on the head, they bar out as they get older or get the stripy spotted feathers, just like the mothers do. And the reason the females of the black stars don't have the dots on the head is because their dad is just an all red rooster, a solid color. And so that's made a huge difference. I get thousands of chicks back a year, and we don't have the facilities to raise them out. And so it did used to cause a bit of an issue when we had straight run chicks. We didn't know who was who. We either had to just let people adopt, keep the roosters, or grow them out here, which wasn't feasible. And we do have a pretty large animal welfare, animal rights contingent around here that does not like our hatching program. And I also have to take into consideration the ethical concerns, right? There's no way around it. And so this has really helped decrease the amount of roosters that are getting dropped everywhere. And just seems, and the teachers like it too, especially my high school teacher. She really likes having the older kids try to sex the chicks herself. Um, we are lucky enough to have a local farmer here who will take whatever chicks that I don't sell or any of the rooster chicks, and he does um, grow them out, and then they do enter the market. So it's nice to have a sustainable market for them. They're not being euthanized as soon as they come back. They are being utilized for food when they get older, and so it makes me feel better that the chicks have a purpose. Because, like I said, there are ethical concerns with this. I'd be silly to pretend there weren't. Um, and with that, again, I can talk about all of these forever. I didn't want to drag on and on and on, but I am happy to answer any questions you might have either now. If you want copies of our programs, I'd be happy to share those. Our early childhood director is happy to do that. Any questions you might have, if you want more detail, email is always the best way to get a hold of me. I'm very rarely in my office, but both my email and my phone number are listed on here as well.
There any questions for Kate? And there will be another opportunity at the end to ask questions. Kate, and do you guys have all the eggs yourself? Is that you have all the eggs yourself at this point?
Yes, so I every single year order, every August I order roughly 60 hens, and I have a separate chicken coop building then. So I grow out all the eggs for this program myself. We collect them every week. Eggs are only distributed on Tuesdays in an effort to prevent me from having to distribute eggs every day when I'm also teaching every day. And also that way the chicks are more likely distributing them on a Tuesday. We tell them not to put them in the incubator any later than Thursday, um, just due to they get less viable the longer they sit. And then if they're in the incubator between Tuesday and Thursday, they're more likely to hatch during the week, which is what the teachers want to see. I do have a Google phone number attached to my cell phone, and I am the emergency contact for any of these teachers. And so um, anytime they have a hatching issue, incubation issue, I ask them to contact me. If there is a chick that does not seem like it is going to be able to survive in the classroom, or it shouldn't survive in the classroom, for lack of a better way to say it, I do make them return the chick to me. I handle any of the medical type things.
Perfect. Thanks, Kate.
Mhm.
So we are gonna turn it over. There will be questions at the end. Again, I'm gonna turn it over to Kyle. Kyle's a very different program, right? So this is a cool program also. So Kate, we really talked about some school programming and group programming, and Kyle's gonna talk more of the traditional club programming, I would say, opportunities that are in more of the traditional club program. So with that, Kyle, I'm gonna turn it over to you. You are still muted.
Having a technology issue here for a second. Bear with me. Can you guys see?
Yeah, we are seeing a young lady with three chicks on her arm.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Kyle Yakabuchi, and I am the 4-H educator for Fulton and Montgomery counties, which is in the Mohawk Valley and upstate between Utica and Albany. So a little bit different area than our last presentation. We're a little more rural setting, and our program focuses a lot more on club programming rather than our schools and things like that. So it's going to be a little different program that we're going to talk about today, and a little bit different type of poultry that we're going to talk about. So to get into this, our 4-H program that we started about 6 years ago is called the 4-H Mystery Chick Project. And the purpose of this project was to teach youth about incubation embryology because there is a portion of the program that does deal with that. Um, to instill responsibility to care for a living animal because these youth, for the most part, are going to be hatching these chicks and caring from them from day one until adulthood. To hone skills of observation and critical thinking so youth can make educated conclusions about what breeds they're raising. So, a little trick to this program is that these youth are getting mystery eggs. So we get anywhere probably from a dozen to 18 is usually what we shoot for. But we don't tell them what they're getting. They get all different sizes and colors of eggs to incubate. They are all chickens, but they get a very vast variety of whatever we have that year. And they have to hatch them and make observations about what we're teaching in our classes to make an educated guess on what breed they have. Okay. Educate youth about purebred exhibition poultry. So I know we were talking about certain breeds just a few seconds ago. Those we'll get into that in just a second. There's a difference between production and exhibition. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today. And then create a fun environment for youth to learn about numerous aspects of the poultry project. So as you'll see as we go through, we do a whole series of classes that go along with this project that focus on different aspects of the poultry project. So the youth are getting a well-rounded um, poultry learning experience, not just exhibition birds. Okay. So where do you start with trying to plan a program like this? I'd say the biggest thing you will have to have in your county if you want this to succeed is a dedicated set of volunteers that are going to take the initiative to want to help make this program happen. We're a small county here, so our staff is literally myself and one part-time person, and that is our entire CCE office. So we heavily rely on volunteers in our programs to help make things happen. So in this case, I have two volunteers that are absolutely amazing that actually are 4-H alumni and grew up in the poultry project. Um, and they both show birds. And the American Poultry Association shows an American Bantam Association. So they have a little bit of that background and that connection. I know that might not be a possibility for all counties to have those connections, but if this is something that's of interest to you, you can always reach out to me and I can network with them to see what people might be in your local area that you could link up with to make something like this occur. Another thing that's really important, which is the project partners, which are the breeders that you're going to work with to get eggs and possibly chicks if needed. Reliable incubators, ones that you're testing every year and making sure that they're staying consistent with their temperature and their humidity is super important. We do have a set of Brinsea incubators here in the office. We have 20 of them that we purchased. They're not cheap, but they are really reliable. And unlike some of the other incubators out there, they do have replacement parts rather than having to replace the whole incubator. So it does make it easier for repairs and things like that. And then setting up a series of educational classes that best fit what your youth are going to learn about. Those are the big parts of planning that we think about when we go about scheduling our series each year. So, seeking volunteers with a background in poultry obviously would be a helpful start. Willing to commit to a series of classes that will span approximately 6 months, meeting once a month. So this is the set that we do. We use the same model now that seems to be working year after year, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But here's some photos from our reveal class this past year with youth that are making their final guesses about what breeds they have. Program partners. So this is by far one of the more challenging aspects of this program. It takes a lot of research, networking, and it's not just people local to our county. So you will have to do a little bit of online research. If you have the ability to advertise or have people go to poultry shows or that know poultry breeders, that is something that I'm fortunate that we have in our volunteers, that they're able to network and get people interested in this program. To get us partners to work with the project. There's also some resources out there with ads and contact information. So usually what we do before this program is send out an email with a basic like looking for fertile hatching eggs or chicks. We're looking for sponsorship, but also willing to buy some eggs in certain cases depending on what we need that year. Um, Another way to go about this is to reach out to your American Poultry Association director or American Bantam Association. They focus on purebred exhibition poultry, and they are a great resource and might be able to direct you to people in your area. There's also Facebook groups about exhibition poultry and Show Poultry Central, which is a good website to network and find local partners. I will say not everyone's going to be local. Like we have had people send eggs from Arizona and other parts of the country before, even 1 dozen, just to assist with our program. So you can get very creative with it if you'd like. Um, So this is just a few options that we talk about, brands we recommend, but you can pretty much use anything that works best for you. We have mainly Brinsey's Max 2 Ecos, which is the model that we use for our program. There's a great similar version of an incubator that's something you can actually get more locally, not have to order online, and that's the Nurture Right 360. GQF makes good forced air, but again, any of these kinds of incubators um, or anything similar to them will work great for this kind of programming. Things to consider when you're looking at those incubators: forced air versus still air. So mainly that means that still air doesn't have a fan or a circulating air system in it. So you're just having still air when you're incubating. A forced air is going to have a fan that circulates fresh air into the incubator. One of the plus sides to a forced air is that when you take your top off your incubator to turn the eggs, if you don't have an automatic turner, when you put that top back on, it's going to come back to that medium temperature that you need it to quicker and be more stable in that temperature by having that circulated air. Um, so that's just something that's preference. There's a cost difference sometimes because one requires a motor and a fan, the other doesn't. So these are all things you have to take into consideration. Um, Egg turner versus no egg turner. I will tell you that when we do our incubation portion, we do not offer egg turners. We want the youth to be fully immersed in the project, and that includes the turning of the eggs and the responsibility of doing that every day. So we do not purchase that. However, not every youth that's doing our program is using our incubators. Some of them have their own. That's out of our control. But from our standpoint, we encourage the turning of the eggs manually to really get the full effect of what the project is. And ease of filling the water reservoir. So if you notice, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but that little yellow thing on the outside of the incubator, some of your styrofoam ones, you'll actually have to physically remove the top and let heat out and fill the reservoir with water. That loses air and it doesn't make consistency with your incubation. I do like the incubators that offer the outside water reservoir where you can actually pour the water in the little area and it goes into the incubator without having to remove the top and lose heat. So that is one thing we really do like about this particular model we use is that you can fill that outer reservoir and not have to take the top off to lose temperature. Where's my cursor? Okay, so another aspect of this program and planning is the educational series. So what we do is we meet once a month starting in February, and we go all the way through till July with our program. Our fair isn't until Labor Day weekend during state fair, so we schedule it so that the birds will be old enough or mature enough to show at our fair. So that's how we have this time frame picked out. Our incubation training usually occurs in late February. Our chick care and brooding occurs before hatch date, usually about a week before their hatch date, so sometime in March. And poultry anatomy and health happens in April. May, we do discovering poultry breeds and characteristics. So we actually, for that one, go to one of our volunteers' farms. They run a feed store, so you can see in the picture they're sitting on their feed in their feed store. This is where we hold the event because we have live birds there where we can show different characteristics of the different types of breeds. Um, and then poultry showmanship we actually put into this series. So our June class is usually focused in 3 stations with different parts of poultry showmanship where they rotate by skill level or age division. And then we do our mystery reveal at our fair. Grounds, and all of the youth bring the birds they hatched from that year to that event, and we do a mystery reveal, let them do their final guesses before we reveal what breeds were actually included in the program that year. And we also, after we do the reveal, have copies of our fair book there and help them do their fair entries so they can exhibit those birds at the county fair. So that's the full scope of what we do for the series. Um, this can be tweaked, obviously, to whatever best fits your program, but this is how what works for us and what we're doing. And we tried, like I said, to make it all aspects of the poultry program so that they're learning about that chick care, that general care of the birds, that anatomy and health. These are things that are important for raising birds of any type. Um, so really fully doing that, but also bringing in the exhibition side of it, which is going to be the part about the identification of the animals. Okay. Sorry, I keep losing my cursor for some reason on this, and I cannot find it to switch this. There we go. So other points to consider if you're planning to do a program like this, how you're obtaining the eggs. So this is super important. So um, I said it was hard enough to find or not volunteers, project partners to get eggs from, but then you actually have to physically get them to you. So again, this is where your volunteers, if you have really dedicated volunteers to the program, this helps. Um, and if you're super dedicated to it as well. As you can see here, that was just portion of the eggs that we got from breeders one of the years we did this project. Most of that we had to go physically pick up the day before distribution. And this is people from all across New York State that we were working with. So you do have to have people willing to do that. We do charge for this program. So a way that we assist our volunteers that are donating a whole day of their time to do this or more. Um, is we do offer mileage for them because they do drive all the way out to like Orleans County and down and around to Bath and then Binghamton area and then back to our area. It's a full day of getting eggs. So you do have to have that in mind that this is a difficult part to the project and you have to have people that are willing to work on things like this to happen. Now, there are ways that you can do this without it if you don't want to per se um, focus on just the exhibition, or if you just want to do purebred poultry, you could work something out with any of the hatcheries to ship eggs to you. There are other breeders too that work with us that do ship eggs to us in the mail. But this is what we've worked with because we do have the network locally within the state and within New England and Pennsylvania area. Um, the funding for the incubators and discounts. If you call some of these incubation companies, they do have an education discount. So if you get in touch with their sales reps at any of these incubator companies, you can get a reduced cost. I believe Brincy was 20% off for educational purposes, but you do have to make that direct contact with them for them to honor that discount. They don't believe they advertise it on their website. Um, Education resources, there are quite a few if you just do a Google search, but I do have these if anyone's interested. There's the National 4-H Poultry Curriculum, which we all should have access to through Shop 4-H. We do utilize a lot of the information from that with teaching the basics of the poultry project. Nebraska Extension has an Exhibition 4-H Poultry Curriculum. That's a PDF that you can actually just Google search it and download it on your computer. It's a great resource. Michigan 4-H Poultry Fitting and Showmanship, for anyone that saw the change in pace this year, that we uploaded on the state site, score sheets and a guide for showmanship for poultry. This is that guide from Michigan State, so that's a great one. Oregon 4-H has a poultry project book that really delves into it. And then there are also great resources that you can utilize in these classes through the American Poultry Association and the American Bantam Association. So we can answer some questions on that at the end, just because I know that might not be something that many are familiar with. But they do a standard perfection, which is the book that basically tells you what breeds are recognized and what they're supposed to look like. Okay. Um, what we do at the completion of our project after fair and after that is we encourage the youth to learn a little bit more about exhibition poultry, what they're raised for, what shows are, and if there's interest, teaching them how to set up breeding pens and raise their own birds from their own breeding program. So we encourage swapping after fair. If there's kids that hatch certain breeds they don't want and another kid has what they want, we encourage that swap to make breeding pens. If we don't have something, we can link them with the original breeder and get them set up, and we have had youth do that. We encourage them to attend a local show. There's quite a few here in New York and New England. This is just a few of them. Eastern New York for us is the closest. That's in Cobleskill. But there's a Finger Lakes club that has theirs at the state fairground. Twin Tier is actually the one in Bath and Steuben County. They have their show in the fall. Northern New York is way up in St. Lawrence County. They have theirs, I believe, in Gouverneur now. It used to be in Waddington. And the Northeastern Poultry Congress is in Springfield, Mass. At the Big E Fairgrounds on Martin Luther King weekend, and that's with all our just show in the Northeast. And it's quite something to see if your kids are really interested in that. I highly recommend that one as something for them to go visit and check out. Um, Also, education wise, for what they're learning in these classes and what they might want to continue learning about, we encourage getting involved in Avian Quiz Bowl. It's kind of tough for our county because our fair is during state fair. But we do have kids that like to learn about that kind of stuff and might hopefully one day have kids that go up to state fair and do it. Um, so just an example of our project schedule. So we start soliciting program partners in December and January. I actually just sent out an email to like 50 different breeders the other day, soliciting to see if they would like to partner with us on our program this year. Maybe donate eggs or you know, do a reduced cost for our program. Our deadline to sign up will be coming up around the 13th or 14th, I believe, of February. Um, well, at the end of the month, like I said, we'll do our incubation training, and then we'll do our egg pickup on a Sunday and our egg distribution to the participants on a Monday, usually around the 10th or 11th of March, somewhere on that weekend. And then as you can see, you can pick whatever date you'd like in these other months to do a once a month class. And then the fall attending a poultry show. And then December, we do a poultry breeding class. So we do talk about what you have to do to set up pens if you want to have fertile eggs yourself to incubate, and what kind of housing you need for that, what kind of number of cockbirds versus hens that you're going to need, um, and things like that. So just a little bit else I want to touch on before we go to question and answer. This is just one of the 4-H poultry projects we have. This one delves into the exhibition side of things. However, we do also diversify and offer meat projects for turkeys, chickens, and ducks. And we also offer our incubation and embryology in the schools. Not quite as big a program as Kate was saying, but we do offer about 40 classrooms at incubation and embryology a year. And we do like to talk with the youth when we do any of those programs about the difference between production versus exhibition. Because there is a difference. You can have purebred animals, say a Rhode Island Red, for instance. And I think this is important to know, depending on what your youth want to do with the poultry project. A Rhode Island Red is a Rhode Island Red. However, there's an exhibition strain versus a production strain. And over the years, many of the breeders that you would get from a hatchery, per se, are going to be production strain birds that have not been bred to the standard of what a Rhode Island Red is supposed to look like. So keep that in mind if you have kids wanting to buy their exhibition birds from a commercial hatchery. Likely the animals that they're going to get from there are not going to be exhibition quality. Um, and a lot of it has to do with the coloration and the feathers, the body type, and the size. These are all things. They'll have better laying ability and things like that, but they won't have the physical characteristics that the breed standard calls for if you're going to be exhibiting birds. So if you have a purebred or exhibition poultry part of your fair book and a production, please keep those things in mind, especially if you say in your book that you are judging by the APA or ABA standard of perfection for your exhibition portion. That's what that means. Those standards in the APA and ABA, or which is the American Poultry Association and the American Bantam Association, those are the guides to what the breeds are supposed to look like. And there's a lot of great resources out there. The American Poultry Association actually has a youth educational side to it. They have a Facebook group, and there's a lady on there that does an amazing job of doing side by sides of production strains versus exhibition strains so that you can see the physical differences, and what they're supposed to look like versus what a production strain looks like. And we like to utilize that information when teaching, just so that the youth are aware. And it's fine whatever way you want to go. It just depends on what your purpose for raising birds are. Are you there to raise them for exhibition? Are you there to raise them for a food source? Or are you there, just as pets? Okay. And that I anyway is great, but you have to know what your goal is before you set out to do it. So anyway, does anybody have any questions? I know that was a lot of information. It was more about basic program layout and planning. Um, yeah. And I want to say a huge thank you to Matt Gogas and Eric Olowski. They are our volunteers that without them, we wouldn't be able to do this program at all. Not even in the slightest. So had to put that in there. Mhm.
Any questions for these guys? For either Kyle or Kate? Kyle, how many eggs do they hatch typically?
It really depends on the year because that's the one thing about this program is we never have a consistent number of people and amount that they're donating. So really, the way we advertise it is that they will get whatever we are able to supply that year, which is anywhere from, I mean, last year it was not a lot because we had a very bad thing happen where one volunteer had a car full of eggs and was on the way here to distribute them and got in a car accident. And all of the eggs exploded in her car.
Was she okay before I left?
She was pregnant also on top of this. Yeah,
Was she
she was okay.
okay?
And little Hadley is great. Yeah. And she's back with the program this year. And yes. So
Wow,
that
what
was
a
our
trooper.
drama last year. And I'm like, oh my God. So yes, you have to roll with the punches like anything else. But normally we've had anywhere between 12 and 18. We've had so much interest in this. For our little program here of like 200 something kids, we had 60 kids last year do this program. So that's quite a percentage. And we have families that keep wanting to come back and participate in again. And we've done surveys before about programming, and this always is something on our survey. So they really seem to enjoy it, and that's why we want to keep evolving and making it as better as we can. Um, it is tough to orchestrate, but if it is a great learning experience for them.
Kyle, how many years can the kids do this project? Can they
So
do it
we just
unlimited?
implemented this year because we've had some that are getting a little bit too repeat. They don't need to redo it again. And they've got their own birds already that they've done from this project. And I'm like, I finally said to a few of them, like, this is year 3. Next year, you're gonna raise your own birds. Because I already know you have like 3 breeds that you've started now from this project. So this one, the kids that are doing it that long, they are starting to do their own breeding pens and raise their own birds. And some of them are actually even donating eggs back to the program now, to help with different breeds. So, yep. And yeah, so
Is one of
Kyle,
the is
go ahead.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I was just to say, Kyle, did you start this program?
So, okay. When I was a youth, I was a poultry youth in 4-H, and Oklahoma used to have a similar project like this eons ago. But theirs was statewide, and they would do it for the whole state 4-H. And then they have a huge 4-H poultry show at the end of the year for all the kids that participated throughout the state of Oklahoma. But then that kind of went away. So we kind of reignited it on a smaller scale, to do here.
When you were a youth, or
I remember it being advertised in like the yearbooks that they put out for the American Poultry Association, back when I was a kid, like in the early 2000s, late 90s.
but you started the program in your county.
Yes. Yep. I actually grew up in 4-H with Matt and Erica's husband. So I have a connection to these guys that makes it a little bit easier to work with them. And we grew up in the 4-H poultry project together, and showing APA, ABA shows. So I do have a background myself in poultry and exhibition poultry, that I do not raise anymore. I'm a rabbit person for all those that know me in that realm. But I do have the background knowledge and, from raising waterfowl and poultry. So, yep.
Other questions? Go ahead.
My next question. I know you had talked a little bit that you covered mileage for the volunteers because they are putting tons of hours in.
Yep.
Did you talk about, and I missed it, and if I did miss it, then forget it, but what is the cost affiliated with this? And do you charge?
We do. Yeah. We have to for logistical purposes. We charge $35 for them to keep the chicks. If they want to just do the incubation portion, we charge a $5 rental fee for the incubator if they need to use it. And then what they do is they'll hatch the chicks and then donate them back. And then if any other kids have a bad hatch or have zero hatch for some reason, we have a supply of chicks that we can get to those families that needed something to raise for the whole project. We also have a couple of the breeders that we have on standby that have been with us since the beginning that have chicks ready to hatch from our kids' hatch date, so that in case we have any zero hatch issues or incubator got unplugged, or it happens every year. Something happens and somebody doesn't hatch something. We have a backup plan, like who needs chicks? Everybody needs this base amount to do the project, and we're able to get those chicks and do that way. Yeah.
I would just add quickly to that. So those that are listening, and you may not be familiar, but we did just announce the rice funding that's available. So there is rice funding through the state that is available. If you partner with a county, if this may be a large event for just one county, but if you want to partner with a neighboring county and do this at a small scale to get it started, there is funding for the rice fund to apply. That is due March 1st. So think about that also.
And actually, that's a great point, Brian. Like, this is a lot, but I am able to do it because I have the volunteers that are dedicated. But if you had counties that wanted to go in on it together, I think that would make it even more feasible and easier to plan. Um, we have had other counties interested. The biggest issue is finding the breeders and if they have their breeding pen set up that early for when we do it in March, especially up here in the tundra in upstate. It's a little tough sometimes finding the eggs, but we do have a few really great people that are involved in the program that are super eager to help. I don't know if any of you know Jamie Matz. He judges a lot of our fairs up here. He is a huge supporter of the program and always donates eggs every year. He's down in Broome County in Harpersville. And he's an APA judge as well, but he is excellent. And Duck Hollow Farm out in, I think, Yates County is where they're at. They're super helpful too. And if they're in those areas, they might be willing to work with you on a program as well, because I know they've been super, super helpful. Anything we needed, they've donated eggs, chicks, you name it. So, but that's the hardest part, I will say, on this is getting that base network going so that you have repeat helpers in this department to get the eggs every year. We have one gentleman who lives near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that saw our program advertised on Facebook through my volunteers and contacted us, and now he donates like 7 dozen eggs every year of Japanese bantams, which are incredibly difficult to hatch. And that's something the kids learn in this too. There's a there's a there's a steeper curve in fertility issues when you get into exhibition birds versus your production strains. Production strains are more proficient in this department. They're easier to hatch. They're more consistently fertile. When you get into exhibition strains, they do not focus on production as the part. You're looking at other aspects of the animal. So sometimes production levels go down, fertility levels go down. So this is something the kids learn. Unfortunately, in this is that certain types of breeds and eggs are a little bit better in the fertility department. Other ones, especially a lot of your bantam breeds, are much harder to get fertility on and hatch. Some of your bigger breeds too that have a lot of fluff around their vents. That's something we have to teach too, is that's harder to get them fertile eggs. You have to do certain things to aid with that process.
Any other questions?
Brian, did we see the one in the chat box?
Oh, I did not.
If
Go
they
ahead.
want to keep the chicks, are they required to attend all the educational sessions, Kyle?
So we highly recommend, but we don't make it mandatory. And what we do is if they can't make a class, we have everything in PDF form with the information that we covered. And what we do after every class anyway is send that PDF information out to the entire participant list. So that everyone's getting the information, even if they couldn't attend that night. Because we understand it's 6 months and people are busy and sometimes it's just not going to work out. We, but again, highly encourage them to show up. But like I will tell you right now, we probably get like 60 to 70% at every class, if that. It just depends. Especially if you have kids that have done it more than 1 year. We don't really switch up the information. So I noticed that if we have second year participants, we're obviously not going to get them to come to every class because they already taken the class and understand the process.
Kyle and Kate, I'm just going to throw this out there. If they're interested in getting your PDFs, your PowerPoints, whatever, they're welcome to email you guys.
Absolutely, especially for embryology. Zoe and I had a meeting about it the other day. I have, oh gosh, I think I'm up to like 10 handouts that I provide all the teachers each year. And I do have a PowerPoint of my 92 slide teacher training. I'm happy to share with the box folder with anyone. And in terms of each of our smaller program write-ups that I talked about, I can easily email those out as well.
Very good. Any other questions? So I am going to thank you guys. I appreciate your time, and I'm just going to share. Are you guys able to see? So my screen, I just want to talk about. So our next training we have is on February 11th on clover buds. This is a question, especially if you're fairly new, that continually is asked. And then we are going into the 25th as engaging teens in animal science projects. Right, all these projects are a great idea for, right, what Kyle and Kate both presented are great opportunities for teens to engage in them. But right, well, the animal science team will be going through some of that stuff. And if you do have a project that you are willing to share, have an interest in sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email. We'd love to include you in that as we're engaging with educators across the state. And then the last one we have is on our YQCA. This is a training that's a national training that some states are required to do that, and it's really on the quality care of animals if you're not familiar with that, and you can actually become a trainer yourself. So these are all great programs that we want to just give you guys the opportunity to learn about and bring back into your county. So if there's no questions, we appreciate Kyle and Kate. Thank you guys. Thank you all for hanging with us, and we hope you stay warm. If you've got questions, we'll hang on for another minute or two. If you want to ask them in smaller groups, that's fine too.
I did want to add, I mentioned that the teachers in my program have to purchase all the equipment. I do offer it for sale. I have a list of everything, and we use GQF incubators, and I sell feed, shavings, all of that. So they purchase it from me, but I just don't supply it. They're welcome to source the incubators on their own if they don't want to invest in the hufferbators that we use, but I am not available for troubleshooting issues at that point in time because I have no idea. I only know how to use mine.
Very good.
And each one is completely different.
Mhm.
Now, I see a lot of the styrofoam ones. Are you guys saying it doesn't sound like the styrofoam ones are the best ones to go with?
The
So that's what
Hovabator,
I use.
but the
Okay.
Hovabators are the good ones.
Mhm.
Out of what I've witnessed, the little giant ones don't hold temperature as much than what our experience is, because that's what we had before. And because of that, that's when we had a grant, and our program decided to utilize some of that money to get the Brinsies. Just because they're made of plastic and they're a little more sturdy and long lasting. And the biggest thing for me was having, if something happened with